recording. Okay. So, asking you guys, sorry, I'm just breathing so I don't yawn because I keep doing that. All right, I wanted to know before I actually get into the next thing, just there's the one thing I wanted to cover tonight. That because you guys have had a bit more chance to catch up and everything, is there anything you've got questions on or anything you want some clarity on? Or are you guys doing okay with it all so far? Just to know how you're feeling. Cool. Karen, Pierre, are you guys okay still? Okay, if you think about it, Karen, just randomly type. Otherwise, obviously, if you think about it, when we're out of our collab, just WhatsApp me, and then I can clarify. All right. So there's one main thing that, well, the only thing that I want to speak to tonight is the multimodal toolkit. Also, just want to say, if you hear random chirping, I'm sorry, I do have a chick asleep on my shoulder right now. I'm going to send you guys the picture of me so you can see how I'm busy doing my collab with you guys. This is my current state. So, all right, let us have a look at this multimodal toolkit. My gosh, sorry, I was doing the same thing earlier yesterday with my Friday with my on-campus students. I couldn't what's it? I just could not say the words. It just could not. That word multimodal just kept tripping on it. All right, so thank you. This is how I've done my lectures. This everyone around me, and with a chicken to my left giving me dirty looks because she wants to go to sleep. Right. So this multimodal toolkit is all about the analysis of media. So how are we able to analyze media text? When they talk about media text, we're not only referring obviously to written word, we're talking about any media document like I clarified on WhatsApp. So when you think of multimedia text, they're just meaning media documents. So that could be adverts, it can be a film, it can be an article, anything where there is content that we can analyze. That is the whole point of this multimodal toolkit. And what's important here is understanding that every element can be analyzed in some way, shape, or form to give us a further or deeper understanding of the content within the media that is produced. So almost all media has a deeper meaning. It isn't just about what we see at face value, but it's also about, the hidden message, the deeper message. And generally those deeper messages are actually more important than the surface messages. All right, so what's important for the multimodal toolkit is just understanding the different elements that make up this toolkit. Because if you guys choose to do question 4 of the POE, which we looked at last collab, you can find my words. You can choose question 4, which is where you are going to be analyzing a BMW ad using this multimodal toolkit. I'm just going to call it the toolkit so that I stop sounding so ridiculous, if that's okay with you guys, because I feel that I sound like an idiot every time I say that word. Yes, yeah, it's a mouthful at 7:30 at night. Right. Okay, so what's important is that when you are working through this toolkit, is that thinking about the various elements that are present, because each of them have a specific role to play within this media analysis. So when you are doing your own analysis, if you choose to do question 4, or if this comes up in the scene exam, how it should be is that you can even use the different sections, such as the verbal, and we'll go on to the others later, the oral and all that kind of thing. You can actually use these as subheadings, and then you can then write to each of these aspects of it. You don't have to try weave it in. You can use the subheadings, or if you don't like using subheadings, obviously then you can just incorporate it into the paragraph. Evening, Tegan. Nice to see you joining. Right, so the first thing, media text product has to be analyzed according to each mode, or can we pick Larissa? So it will depend on the different media that they present. So for example, for your exam, not your exam, your assignment, no, don't worry at all. For your assignment, you're going to be analyzing a print ad, as well as a video. So in that instance, you'll end up using more of them. But for example, we're going to look at one called the spatial later. That one might not be applicable in certain circumstances. Then in the one which deals with sounds, if it was just a print ad, you wouldn't use that. So you would pick and choose depending on what you're trying to do. And also obviously determined by your word count, because if you've only got so much word count, you've got to then focus on the ones that are most relevant and where you can get the most information. Okay. So starting at the first thing is the verbal. So in pretty much every single ad that you, or ad or media text that you analyze, there's going to be some presence of words. There are some very clever ads out there where they haven't used any words and it is all based on visuals, but those are only done by established brands where an image is, or the icons are iconic. So for example, if it was a McDonald's ad and they've got no text but they've got the big yellow M, we would be able to identify that. We'd be able to identify KFC, BMW. So brands that are established can be a bit more clever, where other brands need those words to act as what we call it anchorage. So anchorage means it helps us to understand what the focus of the ad is all about, as well as who the ad is all about, or the media text is all about. So you will need to analyze the words. This could be a clever play on words. It could be maybe, like, whenever I think of interesting or different ads, I always think of Nando's, because Nando's always has play on words, very clever ads, generally done to shock and horrify us. Have you seen the new Nando's ads at the moment? Out of interest. And you've watched it? Yes, yeah. All right, because this is quite funny, I'm gonna show you the latest one, their latest ad, just because I want to just look at this in terms of ideology. So let me just share my screen with you. My chicken just ran away because it gave her a fright.
We are having another baby.
Yeah.
Why can't you just pull it out?
Shush, Papa.
What? The steak?
The new Nando's Cover Society and single chips. Get it for 59 Rand.
So the reason why I showed you guys this one is that I was actually watching Barbie, and there was a mom behind us with her young child, and that ad obviously comes on the screen. and the mother was like, "That's disgusting, how dare they," and like got such a fright. And I think that was kind of, so there's been this big up and down about whether the Barbie movie, if it was applicable for younger children to watch it and so on. And in that moment, their choice of words and what have you, having that Nando's ad there just showed me that the target audience was meant to be adults, that it wasn't aimed at kids. And if you're watching a movie in the evening when it is, we consider kids to be asleep and what have you, these kind of ads are going to be present. So it was one of those things. The age restriction was 12. But I know kids that were like five. There was like 5-year-olds watching Barbie with us, the 5:30 show. So it's not, but because it's Barbie, a lot of parents thought it was fine to let their kids watch it, even though it was like I say, a 12 age restriction. But Nando's have always been the ones to be clever, their use of language and so on. And they are really great at making us think and speaking to political issues, even though they are a food change, food change, chain. Oh my gosh, guys! I tried taking a kid movie and they weren't allowed. Hold on, because of the age restriction. Yep. No, it was very much not a kids movie. Also, it got over their heads. It was all about patriarchy and injustices within society. So it's definitely not. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think my kid would not have enjoyed it. But anyway, so it just shows you though that words can have. Oh yes, dear Ken. Ryan Gosling tried so hard. But it's that words can have a major impact in shaping and shifting a media text. So it's always important to look at the words to see if the words and the image, the message they're trying to impart lines up or not. Okay, so that's the first element. Then the next is the visual. Okay, so this is where we do a semiotic analysis. So this is something you've actually done in COSC, where you guys have done connotation and denotation. Am I correct in saying that? You've done this in COSC? Connotation and denotation. So your connotation, no, let me start with denotation. Your denotation is what we see at face value. Oh no, don't stress. And your connotation is the deeper meaning. So it's the deeper message that is being shared within a document, so, or within a media text. So we always look for the connotation and denotation. And what that does is it helps us to understand what is being said and what message is being imparted to the public through the use of imagery. So imagery is really, really important within media text. It is, so often images and text don't align. Yes, exactly, Karen. So we often will find there are media texts that are, what they're trying to be, again, clever with their wording, with their representation, with the message they're trying to send. So for you guys, what you will be doing is you'll need to be able to analyze the various elements, semiotic elements within the advert. What I will share with you guys, just one second. Sorry, I needed to sneeze and didn't want to sneeze in your ear. What I will share with you guys are my notes from previous years on semiotics, on a semiotic analysis. So this year, with the change in textbook, there isn't the same kind of emphasis on the semiotic analysis itself, but it will help you guys with the visual aspect of it. So it's all about being able to analyze the visual representation, whether it be women abuse, clever marketing, whatever it may be. So I'll share that with you guys. I'll upload those for you tomorrow. I'll let you know when I've done it, because they will just help you with that particular question. The other thing you must understand, guys, is that if you do this section for your assignment, is that some sections will have more weight to them than others. So, for example, for any analysis, you'll find the semiotic section, the visuals, will be more prominent than, say, the spatial or the oral or the textual or whatever it may be. So, when you are doing your analysis, just make sure that you are putting the emphasis and the focus in the right place, which obviously I will go through in detail with you guys, just to make sure that you are actually covering the content appropriately, so that you aren't missing the point of this toolkit. Okay. So the other thing that you will analyze when it comes to the visual is your colors, lines, anything that could influence the message or the information that that particular media text is trying to impart with the audience. All right. So the oral is the one that you might not necessarily cover if they were doing just a print media. So for the sake of your assignment, they are wanting you to analyze, like I said, a video as well as a print ad. So you've got to include oral, especially for the print ad, because obviously, I mean, not the print ad, the video, because the wording and the sounds and everything that the ad uses has got significance. So in this instance, the oral does hold value for you guys. So again, that won't be as prominent as, say, the visual, because obviously you'll be talking about the visuals for both the print and the video. So you'll find the visuals will be a bigger section compared to the oral, which will be a smaller section only focusing on the video that you've got to analyze. All right. Are those making sense so far, guys? Just so that I'm not losing you. Okay. All right. So the next one is spatial. Now this one to me, this is one of the ones that would probably have the least prominence within the essay, but is still important to bring up because it's dealing with how this ad fits in within a geographic space and in terms of proximity and distance. Now, this might seem strange to put in a toolkit, but it's actually really relevant because an ad being launched in SA, for example, versus the US, it's going to hit home differently. So, yes, so whether there's a South African context, a US context, there was actually, I spoke to the Media One class earlier about there's been a big uproar on TikTok in the last week or so, where a South African musician called herself colored in a US like a podcast, TV show, something like that. And she couldn't understand why everyone was up in arms with her calling herself colored, because obviously colored in SA has a very different context to colored in the States. So where she sees it as a positive, and for us it's the same as calling yourself white or black, but also has significance in terms of cultural background and in terms of how music, how they relate. But they all freaked out because she called herself colored, which in the States is a big no-no. It's like calling someone the K word or the N word, because there is historic background to the word in the States. And then there was the whole discussion about, you know, is the American ideology the prominent one? Yes, Larissa. The South Africans were like, come now. Like, don't come for us. Don't even try. But it's the reality is that this is for us, it is our common vernacular, and should we exactly, it's about understanding culture, but it, the truth of the matter is in the States, they are, I don't know how to say this without sounding mean, but they are very much of the belief that if you are within the States, you have to do things to match them. And it's almost as if she's having to ignore her race and her culture. So, you know, it's again in the States, if you are black, you almost, or if you, sorry, if you mixed race, you almost have to ignore your one race in favor of the other one, because it's almost as if that you've got to be more proud of your blackness or your Indianness or whatever it may be. So, you know, if you are releasing an ad in South Africa or in the US or whatever, you've got to be culturally appropriate. So, for example, do you guys remember with that H&M ad with the coolest monkey in the jungle, and how Julius Malema trashed all the H&Ms? So that's a key example. That was developed in a Scandinavian country where racism and being called a monkey is not an issue there, like it is within South Africa. Again, they, you know, surely that marketing team has a few brain cells to rub together, but obviously not. So releasing that in our context was stupid. There's no other word for it. So again, it's about knowing your target audience, knowing what you're trying to do, and you've always got to think about not trying to offend and upset people. Yeah, exactly. We do. But there's also a large racial group that term was used as a form of hate speech. So again, it's all about that context. So we have to know where something is being launched. So if it's an ad that's, you know, for SA, for example, the Nando's ads, they would fall short in other parts of the world because they don't have the same South African approach to laugh rather than cry, which, you know, we tend to do. So we poke fun at ourselves. We don't take ourselves very seriously as a South African people. And that's not a bad thing at all, actually. But it means that the way we would interpret media would be different to someone, to another country. So again, it's all about just understanding the context and knowing how it's going to hit home. So spatial would be important. For example, your assignment, it is a African-based perspective, and it's trying to look at culture and ancestors and what have you. So for the sake of the ad, it is actually important to know where this ad is being launched to make sure that it is hitting the correct audience and making sure that the intended audience feels empowered, or that their ideologies are not being ridiculed or mocked or what have you. So again, that spatial actually can come into play in a lot of different scenarios. All right. The next one is the textual. So this one is the one that I don't really see coming up so much, but there are ways that you can incorporate it into your assignment. But again, I'll explain that to you guys in our next collab, where I break down the finer details in more with you guys. But textual is looking at the literal texture and that is within the advert or the media text. So there might be a reason why they have wispy grass. There might be a reason why they have, you know, big, heavy jerseys, whatever it may be. So the idea here is that there is reasoning behind certain textures within a media text. Some of it has meaning behind it, in other instances it doesn't. So it just depends on what message, again, is needing to be shared within the given scenario. All right, so I'll break that one in down in more detail with you guys when we do our NSS collab, essentially. Okay. Then the last one, which is important, is the context. Okay. So this goes hand in hand with the spatial and the visual and the everything. And we know that context is always important. So we've just spoken about that, the colored example. We could probably draw on hundreds of different examples where context within a given scenario would have major impact in the media and the way something or how someone would perceive a particular media text. So the context, again, this one to me is going to be one of your prominent ones. With Koskin, I didn't find this the slice of lemon bad. Well, oh yes, I do know that one, Pierre. Okay, so the context, I think that one's playing into stereotypes more than anything else. So the stereotypical role of what it means to put a slice of lemon in your beer. Yeah. So with this, with your context, this one is going to be prominent. So to me, this one and the semiotics are going to be your two biggest sections because they actually have a lot that you need to discuss to really break down the ads effectively, because your context is what the sender is trying to achieve. Our ancestors were the ancestors. Yeah, so Karen, with this one, with the crossing out of ancestors, it's that we can't only look to the past, we've also got to look to the present to make sure we are doing the things that make us happy and actually make us create our own paths. But yes, reflecting on something that is very socially important within the different African cultures. So there is rhyme and reason to their madness, if that makes sense. So that context has significance, and for you guys, like I say, this is where to me a lot of your research is going to happen. Then it's things like your cultural history, so like you were saying with the bringing in the African culture, intertextuality, where we have to know other texts for it to make sense. Again, you need to understand the cultural significance of ancestors, and then we'll watch the YouTube video in our next collab where we actually look at the word selections and all that, and again looking at the context, because it's not only the ad is not only looking from an African perspective, it's also an American perspective as well. So the print ad and the video, they've got the same commonality but also some differences there that we have to look at. Okay, so does that toolkit make sense to you guys? I feel like I've been waffling for the last half an hour. Oh, good. Yeah, there's some good articles out there. I quite like this one for the assignment, just because there is a lot. That's the best thing you can do, hey? Because if you can make a folder of all the stuff when you've got the time to work on it, you're not wasting all that time doing all the research. So you've just got to decide which one you like the most. So just to reiterate, you guys get to there's the 4 essays, you only write 2 of them, and those then you're going to put into a website. So you've got to make the website, which I showed you guys to do, but again, in our next collab, I'll make sure everyone feels comfortable with that and knows what to do. And then once you've done that, you will choose your questions depending on which ones you like. I like question 1, 2, and 3 equally, so please don't choose a question based on what you think I will like. Please choose it based on what you like, because at the end of the day, the best essay you will write is the one that you actually find interesting to write. So if one of them bores you, don't do it. Yes, Pia, I'm going to help you guys with the layouts and everything. So our next collab is the 16th, and it's due, it's due the 20th. Is that leaving it too late, guys? Do you think we could maybe slot in an extra lecture? Yeah, sure, Karen. Would it be possible to slot in an extra collab? Yeah, I'm just thinking if we do the NSS sooner. Ooh, yeah. How's your Wednesday looking this week? Or tomorrow? What day this week? Okay, let me just stop recording so we don't waste time.